Chapter 6. The first thing Will notices is that he is warm. Not just warm, he is hot and dazed, like he slept for a really long time, his mind still caught in the shapes of a dream that he is already beginning to forget. It takes him a couple of seconds to understand where his body ends and Mike's begins. His face is pressed into Mike's shoulder, his arm flung across his chest, a leg tangled over his knee. The blanket straps the body heat between them. Glancing up, he catches Mike's eyes looking back at him. Oh, Will jerks back slightly, untangling himself without slipping from the heat of the shared blanket. Mike is holding a comic book, issue number 10, his hair sticking out to all sides. How long has he been awake, letting Will sleep half on top of him? The thought makes Will's cheeks burn. Hey, Mike says softly, unmoving, his voice a little rough. You're awake. Sorry, Will rubs the sleep from his eyes. For being awake? For being all up in your space? Mike's mouth twitches, his eyes flicker over his face. That's okay. There's a silence that feels a little unnatural, like there should have been words, but they both forgot their lines. Is the power? Will raises his head and glances toward the dead alarm clock. Still out. He realizes he should be annoyed about this. He should be upset, worried, maybe scared, even about how long this is taking, but if anything, he feels a sense of relief. Will runs his hand over his tired eyes, nuzzling deeper into the blanket. The strong hint of detergent from a few days ago is now almost completely replaced by the mixed scent of both Mike and Will. He gets another night in Mike's bed. Maybe if he's lucky, he gets two. And it's stupid because he's barely awake, but all he wants is for it to be night again. Mike shifts, looking up from his book again, his eyes flickering over Will's face. I don't really want to get up yet. Wanna read with me? He lifts the comic between them. The morning light floats softly over his features, bright enough that Will can count his freckles. They are not as visible now in the winter, but maybe if they survive until summer, he'll get another chance to see Mike's face all covered in freckles. Will couldn't resist the offer if he wanted to. Okay, he says, scooting closer, but can we restart the 10th issue? No, Mike shuts the book and sinks deeper into the blanket, getting comfortable. No? First, I gotta explain what happens in issues 1 through 8. He props his head on his hand, facing Will, expression serious. The lore is important, and I need you to understand the impact before we move on to the next chapter. Will suppresses a laugh and shifts onto his side to face him, knowing this is gonna take a while. Okay, I'm all yours. As Mike starts to talk, gesturing with both hands, Will watches, a smile on his lips. It's always been his favorite thing in the world, listening to Mike tell stories. He does it like nobody else, because he is incredibly good at remembering details, not necessarily the important ones, but the ones that stand out to him the most. And he's invested in a way that makes his story vivid and somehow personal. Will soaks it all in, the sound of his voice, the rhythm of his words. It must have been about 15 minutes of Mike explaining and Will asking questions when Mike suddenly stopped mid-sentence. You know what? He shifts, sitting up. I changed my mind. You need to actually read them. What? You just spoiled like 5 issues for me. Doesn't matter. Mike is already out of bed, yanking comic off the shelf until his arms are full. This is too important. Trust me, you'll thank me later. They spend the morning reading. From downstairs, they hear the sound of morning, the clack of plates, and the echo of voices. Up here, it's just the soft flip of pages and the distant hum of wind outside. Mike insists on reading alongside Will, his shoulder brushing Will's, his head tilted against him as both boys immerse themselves in the story. Will manages to stay focused mostly, only sometimes losing track of the words, too distracted by Mike's warm breath grazing his neck, or the steady rise and fall of his chest, or their hands touching when Mike stops him from turning a page too soon. And it's strange, because the last few days, physical touch was something only reserved for the night. It was okay in the dark when they were half asleep. But now, with the morning light moving over the sheets, it feels natural. almost normal, which is absurd because this isn't normal. They don't just spend a morning sharing a bed, lying under the same blanket. They never did, not even before they grew distant. This is new, and as good as it feels, Will can't get used to it. All this physical contact, they won't maintain it. It's something they do for warmth, and it could be over any second. He can't forget that. The sound of the front door slamming cuts through the quiet, echoing up the stairs. Before there was chatter, the sound of chairs moving over floorboards. Now, complete silence. Did they leave? Will asks, lifting his head. A glance of Mike's watch tells him it's almost 12. You wanna go check? They sneak down the stairs to find the house empty. The air smells faintly of coffee and burnt metal. Outside, the driveway is empty. Car's gone, Will notes. Probably went grocery shopping or something. Mike calls out anyway, voice bouncing through the quiet room. Oh my god, he groans dramatically, moving his fingers through his hair. At last! Freedom! Will chuckles. Come on, they're not that bad. Yeah, but Mike stretches, hair falling into his eyes. I'm sick of everyone being home all the time. Will pours cereal into two bowls, leaving a spill of milk on the counter that he, for once, doesn't feel the need to clean up immediately. Mike gets the comic books. They sprawl across the carpet by the fireplace. The fire crackles, filling the room with a steady warmth. Without the constant sound of footsteps and chatter, Will finds himself relaxing in a room where he usually feels tense. It's nice to be able to just sit together and talk freely, without thinking about what Mr. Wheeler might think. Eventually, they lie down, arms and shoulders brushing, the pages rustling between them, their clothes warm now with the fire heat. Will tries to focus on the words, but is very aware of how close their hands are on the carpets, the backs of their fingers hovering, the heat radiating from Mike's skin. Are you paying attention? Mike asks. When Will looks up, he can see the fire reflecting in his brown eyes, turning them into something brighter. Yeah. This part is important. Mike's gaze lingers on Will's face, a small smile tugging at his lips. Yeah, sorry. Mike makes him go back a few pages to make sure he's really following the story. Here, he points to an especially important speech bubble, the tip of his finger brushing black ink, and Will nods along, with half his mind occupied with the familiar smell radiating from Mike, and the other half trying to restrain himself from intertwining their fingers. Despite all this talk about paying attention, a few minutes later Mike is the one falling asleep. Will notices it when his head falls against his shoulder, his breath slowing. Mike? A hum. Will closes the comic and quietly sets it aside. The fire crackles, throwing sparks of orange light across Mike's face, reflecting in his eyelashes. His skin glows, soft at the edges. Will watches the slow rise and fall of his chest. Slowly, Will moves his fingers and lets them slip between Mike's, just barely. It's quiet. It's peaceful. It's a stillness that makes Will hear his pulse loud in his ears. The sound of the front door startles both of them. Mike is awake immediately, jerking upright and shifting a couple of inches away from Will. It's a movement so fast it leaves Will frozen for a second, the air at his side suddenly cold and empty and too big, like there's something sitting between them. With the speed Mike retreated, it's like he knows how this could be perceived. Like he knows that what they are doing is something his parent wouldn't understand. But is it? Is it something that could be misunderstood? After that, hell breaks loose. Suddenly the house is full, voices overlapping, footsteps, the rustle of paper bags. Nancy, Jonathan, Mr. and Mrs. Wheeler, and Holly all flowed in at once, arms heavy with groceries, cold air sweeping in between them. Will and Mike jump up to help, making room on the front porch that's being used as a makeshift fridge. Cans clatter and Holly asks for sweets. When they're finally done and Will is ready to escape the kitchen, Mrs. Wheeler announces it's laundry day. Within minutes, every spare inch of floor is swallowed by piles of clothes. Will's ears start ringing from the sheer chaos. Mrs. Wheeler divides them into working groups. Will helps her boil pot after pot of water, leaving the kitchen thick with steam and the smell of soap and heated metal. They carry the pots to the bathtub until Will's arms start to ache. Nancy and Jonathan sort the piles of clothing by color. It's all too loud. The slap of wet fabric, the squeak of the floorboards, the muffled hiss of the fireplace trying to keep up. Through all of it, Holly sits at the table, happily drawing and humming a little tune. Nancy and Jonathan string clotheslines through the living room, the only warm place in the house, most likely to dry their clothes. Will kneels on the floor, wringing out another skirt, his hands slick from the water. Across the room, Max helping Nancy with the line, one end wrapped around his wrist, the other around the window latch. As Will watches him, he notices Mike hasn't said a single word since they've started. Maybe since the others got back. His shoulders are tense, jaw tight, fingers fidgeting with the cord. It was so peaceful before. Watching him now, all Will wants is to be up there again, tucked into Mike's warmth, sharing a blanket in the peaceful quiet. Their eyes meet across the room. Mike looks miserable enough for Will to raise his eyebrows in question, but Mike just shakes his head. When the clothesline is finally tied, Mike slips out of the room without a word. Will wants to follow, but Mrs. Wheeler's already calling for another pot of water. He glances toward the hallway. How badly he wants it to be night again, to be alone with Mike again, for them to find each other again in the dark. By afternoon, the living room is packed with fabric. Clotheslines crisscross the space. Shirts and sheets hang heavy in the damp air, making it impossible to sit on the couch. Mrs. Wheeler emerges from the bathroom, sleeves rolled up. "We boiled too much water," she says. "You all should wash up while it's still warm." A metal pot clatters onto the counter. One after another, they go to the bathroom to wash up with a bar of soap. Will uses the moment to slip out of the room. He steps up the stairs quietly and knocks softly on Mike's bedroom door. "Come in." Mike is in bed, tucked into the blanket. He is not reading. It looks like he's just been lying there. "Were you sleeping?" "No." It doesn't sound very convincing. "Everyone washing up. You want to come down?" Mike hesitates. "Have you gone yet?" "Not yet." He looks small there, sunk into his bed, pale in the dim light. "Can we do it together?" Will's chest tightens. "Of course." They head to the bathroom on the second floor, where it's not so crowded. Will waits, sitting on the edge of the bathtub, while Mike gets a pot of hot water from downstairs. He shuts the door behind him and then locks it, the click echoing across the tiles. The water steams enough that the mirror turns blurry. It smells of metal and soap. They stand in a small room, backs turned, and wash quietly, using cloth and soap bar. The warm water is nice, but it's cooling fast and Will makes sure to hurry, putting fresh clothes on. It's quiet between them. "Will?" Will turns. Mike is wearing a fresh sweater, and he runs a hand through his tangly curls. "Yeah?" "Can you help me wash my hair?" He looks at him, breath stuck in his throat. There's something about the way Mike is just standing there, looking at him, asking for help, that makes his knees wobbly. Yes," he says. "Sure." As Mike leans over the bathtub, head bowed, Will lifts the pot with both hands. He carefully pours the warm water over Mike's head, soaking his hair and the back of his neck. Steam moves up around them, then the smell of fresh shampoo. "Too hot?" "No, it's nice." Mike exhales, shivering slightly. He works shampoo through his hair, vanishing in the foam. Will stares at the curve of Mike's neck, the way the water beds along his pale skin. His own fingers twitch against the pot, imagining it was him instead, running the foam into Mike's scalp, twisting his fingers around those strands of curls. "Ready?" Will asks. He waits for Mike to nod before pouring more water over his head, so he can wash the shampoo out. Afterwards, they switch places. The hot water feels nice on Will's scalp, and he closes his eyes as water drips from the end of his hair into the bathtub. The shampoo foams in his hand. He washes his face too, before Mike pours fresh water over him to rinse it all out. Will watches the bubbles of foam disappear into the drain. They both get towels, rubbing the water out of their hair. The quiet feels heavy, sitting between them. Will catches Mike's eyes in the fogged mirror. "Mike? Are you okay?" "Yeah." "Why?" With each passing hour of the day, Mike seems to have grown quieter. It was fine this morning, but now you've been quiet. Mike's eyes roam over Will's features, and for a second it looks like he wants to say something, but then the spark leaves his eyes. I'm just tired. We slept so long, though. You did. Will turned to face him. Now that he said it, Will can see the darkness under Mike's eyes, the paleness of his face, the slump in his shoulder. Suddenly it's obvious. Just because he's been sleeping like a baby ever since they've been sharing a room doesn't mean Mike has. You didn't sleep? No, I did. A little. Mike's mouth twitches and he averts his eyes, looking at the tile across the wall. Doesn't matter. I just don't want to be around so many people today. Okay, Will nods slowly. Do you want to be alone? No. His eyes moves over Will's face. I mean, with you, it's okay. Oh, Will blinks, feeling the warmth rising under his skin. Mike fidgets with his towel. It's too many people downstairs. Yeah, I get it. I feel the same. He's wanted to be alone with Mike since the moment they've stepped out of the room this morning. Mike looks at him in the eyes, a small smile tugging on his lips. Will smiles back. Well, I'm kind of freezing, Mike says. Should we go back to my room? The water in their hair cools fast, replacing the warmth on Will's scalp, face and neck with a chill. They head back to Mike's room, shivering slightly. Mike closes the door behind them. They stand there, unmoving. And there it is again, the silence. Heavy, like something's waiting on them, making it hard to speak. It wasn't there yesterday, not like this. Mike says, you want to go back to bed? A sudden hiss cuts through his word, a sharp burst of static. Both boys turn. What the? It's the walkie. I'll get it. Will is at the desk first, reaching for the walkie and pulling out the antenna. Immediately, the signal clears and words break through. Anyone there? He's about to answer when his eyes land on something all too familiar, a rolled-up canvas, the sliver of red paint visible at the edge, a shade Will had spent hours mixing to the perfect warm crimson. Hello? Will freezes. He hasn't seen this painting in over a year. Seeing it now, laid out so casually on the desk, makes his stomach twist, like someone has peeled open something from deep inside him and pulled it out in the open for everyone to see. Will turns. Mike stands right behind him, eyes fixed on the desk. For a second, their gazes meet. Mike looks like he wants to say something. Then the walkie crackles. Can anyone hear me? Will snaps out of it and puts the walkie into his mouth. Sorry, hi. This you, Byers? Lucas? What's up? Will lets out a shaky breath, trying to concentrate on Lucas instead of Mike. You okay? I'm bored and none of you assholes ever comes to visit. Are you with Max? Will resists the urge to look at the painting again. Instead, sits on the edge of the bed. His fingers feels a little tingly, his heartbeat uneven. He feels Mike move beside him. All day, every day. Tell her hi for me, Will says, adjusting the knob to get a clearer signal. Mike sits down next to him on the bed, their tight brushing. Will stares at their laps. Will do. From me too. There's a pause. Then Lucas' confused voice. Wheeler? Mike leans closer to the walkie, his knee pressing into Will's. Yeah, I'm here too. What the? Oh my god, I can't believe I'm alive to see this day. Will can't help but grin over the excitement in Lucas' voice, throwing Mike a glance, their faces close together as they sit hunched over the walkie. Mike rolls his eyes. Don't tell me you finally talked it out. You two were driving me nuts. Shut up, Lucas, Will and Mike say it at once, but they're laughing. This is the single best news I've heard all year. See, that wasn't so hard, was it? It's none of your business, Lucas, Mike grins. How's the emergency power supply holding up? No, we are not changing the topic. Hey, should we get Dustin in here? He's gonna flip when he hears this. Despite their protest, Dustin joins a minute later, just as loud and excited as Lucas. How? They demand, and Will doesn't feel like explaining, not when this is still all too fragile, not when he's just gotten Mike back in his life. Mike, always the talker, manages to redirect the conversation easily. He grabs the walkie, his cold hand brushing Will's, and slips into bed under the covers. Will tries not to look at the painting, but it's hard to ignore. It wasn't there this morning. Mike must have pulled it out while everyone else was busy with the laundry. Maybe after they talked last night, he just wanted to look at it, which is fine, but maybe he decided he wants a real answer today. Maybe this is why he's been quiet. Will follows Mike under the blanket, careful not to touch him. He watches Mike talk to the others. He seemed carefree now, his face animated but soft around the edges, nothing like he had before.
Will, you still there?
Lucas asks.
Mike, please give the walking to your new old best friend. You know, the one you're finally talking to again.
Don't know which one you mean, Mike teases, but he hands the walking over to Will. Lucas wants to know how Will's been, and Will tells them about Hal and his mom and their investigation on the power outage. As he speaks, Mike shifts closer, so casually, so naturally, draping one leg over Will's. Will can't even begin to question it. The sun is setting, the room's dimming. Mike sighs, his breath brushing Will's neck.
You should come over tomorrow,
Dustin says.
We have to celebrate. I can't believe we can finally have movie nights again.
We can't. Power's out, remember? No TV, Will reminds him. But I guess we could come over. He tries to throw Mike a questioning look, but he has his eyes closed already, like he's no longer a part of this conversation, like he's used up all his energy.
Hell yes, you can. I gotta go, but I'll see you guys tomorrow.
When they hang up, Will pushes the antenna down and sets the walkie aside. Silence fills the room. Will stares at the ceiling. Somewhere downstairs, pots clatter, voice murmur. Mike exhales, long and deep, like he's been holding his breath for hours. And then he's right there, his hand sliding under the blanket, setting on Will's bare stomach where his sweater has ridden up. Oh my God! Will flinches and Mike chuckles against his shoulder, scooting close. Sorry, but instead of pulling away, he keeps his icy hand right there on Will's exposed stomach. Your skin's like a heater. But I'm cold. Your stomach's not. Will doesn't protest, even though the touch gives him chills all over. And maybe Mike had expected him to, because when Will doesn't say anything, his voice gets a little softer. Is this okay? He asks. Yeah. It takes a while before the heat of Will's skin reaches Mike's fingers and warms them up. By then, Mike's breathing has slowed, his face buried against Will's shoulder. Will listens to the muffled sound of the house. Downstairs, there's the faint noise of a wooden spoon on a pot. It's time for dinner soon. Mike's thumb moves, drawing small, lazy circles over the skin of Will's stomach. Slow touches, barely there. Will stay perfectly still. He's not breathing. Mike, he whispers when he can't take it anymore. Mike just hums, like he's almost asleep. Did you want to talk to me? A pause. About what? I can't believe he's the one addressing it. The painting. Mike is quiet, and just when Will thinks he's not getting an answer, he mutters a quiet no. No. Just no. Will takes a long breath. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe Mike just wanted to look at it, and that's fine. It's his, after all. Mike's breathing deepens against his neck. Just when Will thinks he's asleep, his hand drifts higher under Will's sweater, fingers resting against his ribs. He murmurs something, word muffled by the fabric of Will's sweater. What? Will breathes. Warm. Mike's finger traces the pattern on Will's ribs. Will doesn't remember how to breathe. Where Mike's hand had been cold just minutes ago, his fingers now burn. Mike's chest rises slow and steady, like he's half asleep, not even aware of what he's doing to Will. How is making it so freaking hard to breathe right now? Downstairs, a door opens. Mike, Nancy, Will, Jonathan, Mrs. Wheeler calls. Dinner's ready. Mike barely stirs. Mike, Will whispers. Dinner's ready. Mike takes a deep, slow breath, nothing his nose into Will's shoulder. Don't wanna. And despite how hard it is for Will to stay still, how loudly everything inside him screams at him to get out of his bed, another part of him wants to stay right here for the rest of his life. We have to hit. Slowly, Mike lifts his head. Will makes the mistake of looking at him, his face all closed, eyes dark. Mike's gaze moves over his face. Finally, he pulls his hand out of Will's sweater, leaving his skin raw and craving touch. Mike sits up, rubbing his face. As they head downstairs through the cold hallway, Will feels flushed and hot, every inch of him buzzing. All through dinner, he barely says a word. Mike is quiet too, eyes fixed on the soup. Will feels both Jonathan and Nancy's eyes on him, but he can't bring himself to care. Nerves tickle low inside his stomach. There's something growing inside him, something new and bright and dangerous. He realizes that he can't wait to go back upstairs, to share the closed space, to breathe Mike's in, to feel him again. His stomach twists just thinking about it. And he knows how bad this is, because he spent the better part of his life pushing it down, never to give in to the things that he truly wants. And he knows it's wrong. He is misreading this on purpose, twisting it into something it isn't, and he has no one to blame except for himself. But he can't help himself. Will presses his nails into his palms under the table, trying to calm down, but all he can think about is the feeling of Mike's hand on his skin. As they stand in the bathroom to brush their teeth, Will catches Mike's eyes in the mirror. For whatever reason, he feels cold. He looks away quickly and spits into the sink, washing out his mouth. It's stupid. It's so stupid. He follows Mike into the bedroom, closing the door behind him. Mike lights a candle, its soft glow washing the room in gold. When they sleep under the covers, Will feels overwhelmed with how much he wants this. He can barely look Mike in the eyes. He turns toward the wall, making himself small so that he doesn't accidentally overstep a line. But then Mike is already there, closing the distance, fitting himself into Will's space like it's all they've ever done. A hand slips under the blanket, over Will's hip, and then Mike's chest is flush against his back. He doesn't ask anymore, like this is what they do now, like this is who they are now. Will used to dream of things going back to how they were, but this is nothing like that. This is different. It's new. Mike settles behind him, head resting just over Will's shoulder, his arm loose around Will's waist. His knee bumps the back of Will's thigh. He shines, icy, where skin speaks out between his sweatpants and socks, pressed against Will's legs. Will can't keep up, can't comprehend how it's gotten this easy for Mike, how he can just sleep in these clothes like it's nothing. It's awfully quiet. They've talked about so much these past few nights. They've talked more than they had in years, and now it's like there's nothing left to say but too much all at once. Maybe Mike really is just tired. His breath is low and deep, his chest rising against Will's back. Will wants to say something. He needs to say something. Your feet are cold. Then warm them. It's a mumble against his ear, and it's low and thick, like he's already drifting off to sleep again. Slowly, Will pushes his leg back between Mike's, lining their feet together. But his feet are cold too. It's no use. Mike doesn't complain. Mike? Are you sleeping? Yeah. Okay. Good night. Night. Silence. Will closes his eyes, the flicker of the candle dancing behind his eyelids. He concentrates on Mike's breathing, the slow and steady sound of it. He tries to breathe at the same pace, in and out, in and out. Maybe if he tries hard enough, he can forget about how much this means to him, forget about the painting lying 5 feet away from them, forget about everything he's ever wanted and can't ever have. Remind himself of who they are. Don't be stupid. It takes him a long time to calm down. Finally, his thoughts blur and he lets himself relax against the warmth of Mike's back, slowly drifting to sleep. The candle is burning low when Will wakes again. There's a rustle behind him and someone whispers his name. Will. He turns his head. Mike is still pressed against him, their legs tangled. It takes Will a second to realize his own hand is resting on Mike's arm, holding it against his chest. What's wrong? He whispers. I'm too warm. It's a sentence Will never thought he'd hear again, but as soon as Mike says it, he feels it too. The air under the blanket is heavy and hot. His sweater clings to his skin. The space where their bodies meet burns. It's too hot to be this close. He releases him and Mike shifts away. The mattress dips. Cold air seeps in under the cover. Something falls to the floor. What are you doing? When Will turns, Mike has peeled off his sweater and is pushing his sweatpants down his legs, arms and knees exposed to the cold air, skin pale in the candlelight. I told you, I'm too warm. Tugs off his socks too, then slipped back under the blanket, now wearing only his shirt and underwear. And then he moves right back against Will's back. He could have just slipped under his own blanket if it was too hot, but it didn't. And suddenly Will wishes he was wearing less, because then he'd be able to feel Mike's skin where his leg is brushing against his, or Mike's arm draped over his ribs. He holds his breath. When Mike speaks, his voice is right beside his ear. Don't you want this off too? His hand is at the hem of Will's sweater, and the touch sends a trail up his stomach. It's so easy to read this wrong, to pretend Mike means this in a different way, to lean into the fantasy that this thing that Will's been dreaming of ever since he was a kid is somehow taking shape in the real world. Yeah. Will sits up just enough to pull off his sweater, then kicks his sweatpants and socks to the floor. He barely has time to settle again before Mike's hand finds his arm, tugging him gently, rolling him onto his other side until they switch positions. It takes Will a few seconds to understand what Mike wants. Then he shifts closer, curling against Mike's back, mirroring the position they were in before, only now with way less fabric between them. You're all warm now, Mike murmurs. Will curls his hand into a fist so he doesn't accidentally touch Mike, his arm draped loosely around Mike's middle. I guess you're not possessed then. Will huffs a quiet laugh, but it comes out wrong, itched. Possession is the last thing on his mind. He hasn't thought about it in days, and it's strange now to think that fear was what made them share a room in the first place. His thoughts race so fast he can't grab hold of a single one of them. His chest feels tight, his breath shallow. The heat radiating off Mike's back is almost unbearable. Their shirts have ridden up between them, and there's a small space of skin contact, Mike's back against Will's stomach, and it's all too much and all too heated. Slowly, Mike reaches for Will's arm, tugging gently. Will holds his breath as Mike's hand slips over his own, uncurling his fingers. He lets him up, placing his hand on Mike's ribs. The shirt is thin, and he can feel the heat of Mike's skin underneath. His fingers twitch between Mike's hand and body, wanting to move further, wanting to explore, to feel him all over. It makes him burn in shame, knowing what he truly wants. Will? Yeah. A pause. Will counts his heartbeat, loud in his ears. Mike's hand slips from his, curling loosely around his wrist. I'm glad the power went out. Will's stomach twists. Mike's curl brushes his forehead. He wishes he could see his face right now. Yeah? Yeah. Another silence. Will's fingers feel dangerous when they rest against Mike's ribs. He remembers the way Mike touched his stomach earlier and wonders if he's allowed to do the same. It's impossible to know where the line is drawn now. What's okay and what's too much. Because Mike was always something Will wanted entirely too much. His fingers slip down just slightly, brushing the edge of Mike's shirt, and for a moment his fingertips touch just a hint of warm skin. It's a small touch, but it's enough to make his mind all dizzy. He feels Mike take a slow, deep breath, his stomach rising under Will's palm. Will shouldn't be doing this. He really shouldn't be doing this. You know, Mike says, his voice hoarse. He clears his throat. Will opens his eyes, curl tickling his lashes, trying to concentrate on Mike's words instead of his smell and the heat of his skin. I was thinking about what you said last night. Will said a lot of things last night. He said a lot of things all week, and now it's like all their conversations blur into one. What do you mean? Mike takes his time to reply. We listen to his breathing, vibrating through his back. The thing about me avoiding you at the airport? Will swallows are thumping. No matter what they do, it seems they keep circling back to that spring. It's not an excuse, of course. I know I was a shitty friend, but I kinda want to explain what was going on. Nerves twist inside Will's stomach. He didn't ask for an explanation. Okay. My side turns slowly until they're face to face. Candlelight spills across his features in a soft and golden glow. Mike's eyes drift somewhere near Will's forehead, like he can't look him in the eyes. I wasn't really sure how to approach you, he says. I mean, we've known each other since we were 5, and there you were in a new town with new people and a new life, and I didn't know. It really soft. Will waits. I guess I didn't know how or if I'd still fit into your life. Will frowns. Ever since they were kids, Will has always carved out a space for Mike to fit in right beside him, and maybe that space was a little too big, always left half empty because Mike wasn't there to fill it or didn't want to fill it. You're my best friend, Mike. There's always room for you. Mike's lips twitch in something like a smile, but then his face straightens. Elle told me about you in her letters. What? Will blinks. This is new to him. What did she say? She said you've been acting weird. Finally, Mike's eyes drift to Will's. There's a small frown between his eyebrows. She said there was a girl you liked in Lenora. A girl? Will snorts and realizes that maybe he shouldn't be laughing at this, but he can't help it. It's too absurd to even think about. Why are you laughing? Sorry, I just... No, there was no girl I liked in Lenora. Mike hesitates, but he doesn't look surprised. His head gives a small nod, like he expected this already. She said you were painting something for a girl, though. The giggle gets stuck in Will's throat. You know, I wanted to ask about it at the airport, but you avoided the question, so I thought you didn't want to talk about her. Her. Mike, there's no girl to talk about. Yeah, but Mike hesitates, eyes flickering over Will's face, searching. He chooses his next words carefully. There's someone, right? And there they are. The loose thread all laid out. Mike knows Will made a painting. He knows he's made it for someone he likes, and he knows he gave it to him. He just needs to connect the dots. And maybe he already has. Maybe he's just asking for the truth now. Will breathes in, slow and shaky. I don't really want to talk about this, he whispers. Maybe if Mike insisted, he would tell him, right then and there. It'd tell him everything, but it doesn't. He's quiet for a long moment. Will stares at the blanket, so as not to look at Mike. Okay, Mike says, and there's something soft in his voice, like he understands. He knows. Will's hand on Mike's back feels wrong, like maybe he shouldn't be touching him right now. Maybe Mike is already thinking about a way to bring distance between them. But it doesn't move. After a while, Mike exhales and shifts closer, his face resting against Will's neck, his hand drifting up to his back. It's okay, he whispers. What's okay? That he doesn't want to talk about it? That he lied? That he's in love with him? Will stares at the wall, his pulse loud in his ears. Mike's curls tickle his cheek. Mike knows. He must know. But he's still here, still close, still holding him. Will realizes he's trembling, but this time it's not from the cold. Mike's back feels fragile under his hand, like something that could vanish within seconds if he moves too fast. Mike takes a long, deep breath, his nose right at the skin of Will's neck. Will shudders, his stomach twisting into 1,000 knots. He feels Mike's lips against his neck, his warm breath brushing over him. They stay like that, the candle burning low. Will listens at Mike's breathing slow again, but he can't calm down now. His chest feels raw, his heart hammering restlessly. He wants to say it, like he's never wanted to before. He doesn't just want to assume that Mike knows, because this uncertainty is so much worse.